Yeah, lay down. Come on. Good morning, friends. Today's talk is another talk based on the poems of the awakened monks and nuns that's preserved in the Therigatha and the Therigatha of the Kudaka Nikaya. The Therigatha being about 260 some odd poems of awakened monks, and the Therigatha, I think 73 poems of awakened nuns. Excuse me. One of the reasons why this is so interesting to me is the way that the possibility of awakening is presented in modern Buddhism. I spent many, many years practicing in a broad term Mahayana Buddhism, and it's always presented as a nearly impossible task that takes endless eons of practice to eventually awaken, and it's often presented that again, it's almost impossible to do so, which always struck me as odd for a few reasons. One, why would I continue to do this when there didn't seem to be any real benefit to me right now? Of course, that the carrot on the stick, that is, as long as I keep doing this for endless eons, at some point I'll awaken. And again, it was never really described what that means, awakening. The Buddha describes it very clearly as a profound understanding of the nature of suffering and the complete emptiness of ignorance of Four Noble Truths, both obviously achievable in this lifetime. And the Buddha taught a Dhamma that was to be developed, could be developed, and should be developed in this lifetime. So when I hear these accounts in these poems, they're so clear and they're so concise in speaking to the awakening process and how direct it is and how we have an experience of. In other words, there's none of the mysticism that somehow if we do a certain number of rituals or say enough chants or make enough prostrations or just believe enough, the Yogacara school, the modern day Zen schools are basically presented that if you meditate long enough and hard enough with enough intensity, at some point this Buddha nature is going to burst forth. And again, I tried it, even though it never made much sense. And again, it's not something the Buddha taught. And these poems are so clear about individuals that developed the Buddha's Dhamma as he presented it and awakened. And another argument that is made in modern Buddhism is that somehow we have devolved to the point where we're not able to integrate the Buddha's Dhamma. Again, this is something the Buddha never taught. One of the reasons why they're called noble truths is that they withstand time. They're applicable and useful during any age. As long as we're human beings and have a mind and a body, we can develop the Dhamma. So this is a poem from Sujata. Let me just bring it up. Lay down, both. Come on. Why this is taking so long to come up. This is Bhikkhuni, Sujata's final knowledge is what it's called. Lay down, come on, folks. Adorned with jewels and fancy dress, the finest perfume, my servants waiting. With food and drink, ordinary and fancy, we set off to my favorite gardens. We indulge in food and sport for a pleasant time. When spent, we turn for home. She's really describing just an ordinary day in the life. She happens to be a woman of position and wealth, obviously, but just another day. She continues, on the way, a monastery. The awakened one beckoned. I approached, bowed, and sat to one side. With compassion and penetrating vision, he taught me the great truths. Of course, the great truths are the Four Noble Truths. His words enlightened, my mind cleared. I touched the Dhamma. Dustless, deathless, Knowing the true Dhamma, I went forth from home to homelessness. On the spot, she left her position of wealth and power behind and went forth to live within the framework of the Dhamma, within the framework of the Eightfold Path. Sujata continues. Knowledge of the three themes I attained, that points to what the Buddha taught is singularly important on gaining insight into, and that is the three marks of existence. So in this sutta, let me finish it, and then I'll make that comment. Knowledge of the three themes attained. The Buddha's Dhamma is full, not empty. In other words, it contains everything it needs to contain to develop awakening, and there's nothing in the Dhamma that is overfull or embellished that would serve to be a distraction. So in this short poem, Sujata teaches that by developing the end of ignorance of Four Noble Truths, by developing the Four Noble Truths, by developing a profound understanding of the nature of suffering, by understanding that it is craving that originates in clinging that perpetuates that suffering, by actually having the direct experience of the cessation of her own contributions to suffering, she developed the Eightfold Path and awakened. And from that awakening, she gained profound insight into what the Buddha teaches is the purpose of insight. And it's not some generalized insight into, one of these things that used to be when I used to go to retreats that I wish I never went on, but sometimes we'd be given these exercises to take an hour and a half to eat a grape, or other very mundane tasks where you are almost forced to be mindful of the task, which is fine, but it's not mindfulness as the Buddha teaches mindfulness. The Buddha teaches mindfulness first in the Satipatthana Sutta, to learn how to be mindful of what's occurring during meditation, and then how to apply that concentration developed during shamatha vipassana meditation, to hold in mind the refined mindfulness of the entire Eightfold Path, so as to gain the singular insight into the three marks of existence, meaning insight into the impermanent nature of all things, insight into anatta, the views that I'm holding initially are views rooted in ignorance of Four Noble Truths. They're wrong views. So the Buddha used that term anatta to simply show that the views we're holding do not constitute a self. They're not a self. Let go of those views. And in so doing, and gaining insight into the wrong views I'm using to describe myself to myself and the world around me, and the misunderstanding of the impermanent nature of all things, results in the third mark of existence, dukkha, or ongoing disappointing and unsatisfactory experiences. So here Sujata is describing a wealth that many people would like to aspire to, and yet she's finding it lacking. And as soon as the opportunity arises, she comes across the Buddha on her way home from just one of her nights out, takes to the Dhamma and realizes the unsatisfactory nature of the life she was living, takes to the Dhamma, develops understanding of the three marks of existence, and awakens, and spent the rest of her life living a life of peace and happiness rather than excitement and attachment. And it's just a wonderfully direct sutta into why we practice the Dhamma. We practice the Dhamma to gain insight into the three marks of existence. This is what the Buddha taught. And I was almost going to say it's the only thing he taught, but it's not the only thing he taught. As Sujata says here, it is a full and complete Dhamma that completely brings understanding of the common human condition of ignorance of Four Noble Truths that produces an ongoing unsatisfactory life experience. So that's today's talk. I hope you found benefit from it. And if you did, please consider a donation at becoming-buddha.com. Thank you. Peace.